Hey there, silent fighter. Yes, I'm talking to you. The one who keeps showing up every day, smiling at work, being strong for your family, keeping it all together on the outside. But at night, when the noise fades, your mind feels like a battlefield. You've probably had those moments when no one else can see the war you're fighting inside. The doubts, the regrets, the endless what-ifs. And sometimes it feels like your own thoughts are your worst enemy. Here's the truth. Life gives us two battles. One with the outside world, money, career, relationships, responsibilities, and the other, the one within your own mind. And let me tell you, the second battle is always harder. Because even if everything looks calm outside, a single negative thought can poison your peace. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. They don't really care about me. If you let those thoughts grow, they will define you. But there is another way. The ancient Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, faced challenges far harsher than most of us today. Wars, betrayals, exile, even slavery. Yet they discovered something powerful, something most people today overlook. You cannot control the world, but you can always control how you respond. And that changes everything. Think about it. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to have a perfect life. You don't need to win every battle. What you need is clarity, discipline, and a new way to look at your thoughts. Because you are not your negative thinking. You are not the voice that says, "You're not enough." You are the one listening to that voice. And if you are the listener, you have the power to decide what stays and what goes. In this episode, I want to give you 10 Stoic pillars, 10 timeless laws that will help you silence the storm inside your head. These are not just nice ideas. They are practical weapons, forged in the hardest of times, designed to help you build peace, strength, and freedom of mind. If you've been tired of carrying the weight of your own thoughts, stay with me. This might be the beginning of your freedom. The first Stoic pillar is this: you are not your thoughts. Most people believe every thought in their head defines who they are, but thoughts are nothing more than passing clouds in the sky. You are not the cloud, you are the sky itself. Learn to observe your thoughts, write them down, label them, and then let them go. The moment you realize this, you'll see that you're not a prisoner of your thoughts. You are the observer, and the observer always has the power to choose. Let's start with the first Stoic pillar. Learning to separate yourself from your thoughts. Most of us grow up believing that whatever runs through our head is somehow who we are. If a thought appears, it must mean something deep about us, right? But the truth is, that's one of the biggest traps your mind sets. Thoughts are not your identity. They are not orders. They're more like passing clouds drifting across the sky. They come, they go, and you are still there, watching. Think about how many random, strange, even embarrassing thoughts you have in a single day. If all of those defined who you are, you'd be changing personalities every 5 minutes. Yet so many people fall into this cycle. I had an anxious thought, so I must be an anxious person. Or I felt anger, so I must be an angry person. That's not true. You are not the storm. You are the sky. One of the best exercises is to practice labeling your thoughts instead of owning them. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," say, "I'm having a thought that I failed." That tiny shift creates distance, and in that distance, you find power. Because once you see a thought as just a thought, you realize you don't have to obey it. Here's another tool. Write it down. When a heavy thought shows up, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, don't just sit with it in silence. Put it on paper, then question it like a judge. Is this 100% true? Where's the evidence? Will this matter 5 years from now? You'll often find that what felt so heavy was really just air. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. Epictetus said, "It's not events themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Your thoughts are opinions, not destiny. Once you stop fusing your identity with every thought that comes and goes, you take the first real step toward freedom. So remember this: you are not your thoughts. You are the observer, and the observer always has the choice. The second Stoic pillar is this: stop arguing with reality. Our deepest suffering doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from resisting it. Every time you repeat in your mind, "This shouldn't have happened," you chain yourself to the past. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of fate. It doesn't mean pretending pain feels good. It means facing reality without wasting energy denying it. The moment you accept what happened, you free yourself to move forward. Think about it. How many nights have you lost to the same thought? If only I had done this. If only they hadn't left. If only I'd taken that chance. And yet, every hour you spend arguing with reality is an hour of your life you will never get back. Acceptance is not weakness. It's strength. It's the courage to face life as it is, instead of wasting your energy wishing it was different. The Stoics had a phrase for this: amor fati, the love of fate. It doesn't mean you have to enjoy the pain. It means you stop fighting against it. Imagine standing in the rain. You can curse the sky, or you can grab a coat and keep moving. Either way, you're wet. But only one of those choices gives you peace. Here's a simple practice. The next time your mind says, "This shouldn't have happened," stop and answer out loud, "But it did." So now what? That one line puts you back in control. It shifts your focus from victimhood to authorship. You may not control what just happened, but you always control your next step. Acceptance is not about giving up. It's about freeing your energy to move forward. Pain is inevitable, but suffering, that endless replay, that resistance is optional. So instead of arguing with reality, choose to meet it head on. That's where your power begins. The third Stoic pillar is this: never trust your first emotion. Emotions hit fast, like a storm rolling in out of nowhere. 1 minute you're calm, and the next anger, fear, or jealousy crashes over you like a wave. And if you react right away, chances are you'll regret it later. That first emotion is rarely the full truth. It's just your brain's survival alarm going off, loud and messy. Think about it. How many arguments have started because someone fired off a text too quickly? How many relationships cracked because a person reacted before thinking? We've all been there, sending that angry email, raising our voice, or assuming the worst, only to realize later that we misunderstood the situation. The Stoics remind us that the first feeling is not wisdom, it's just noise. Marcus Aurelius himself, the emperor of Rome, had to remind himself daily, keep a calm spirit and look deeper before acting. If the most powerful man in the world needed that reminder, then surely we do too. Here's a simple practice. When an emotion hits, pause and name it. Say to yourself, I feel anger, or I feel fear. Naming it creates a gap between you and the emotion. And in that gap, you get the power to choose have to act on it right now. Another tool the Stoics used is called the view from above. Imagine zooming out on your life as if you were looking from space. Suddenly, that rude comment, that delayed reply, that stressful moment looks incredibly small. From far away, it loses its power. So remember this, your first emotion is not your final decision. You can wait. You can breathe. You can choose your response. And that choice, pausing instead of reacting, can save friendships, careers, marriages, and most importantly, your peace of mind. The fourth Stoic pillar is this: rewrite the story in your mind. Here's something most people don't realize. Events themselves don't break us. It's the story we attach to them that does the damage. The breakup, the rejection, the mistake at work. None of these are permanent scars, but the meaning we assign to them, the story we repeat in our head, that's what keeps the wound open. Think about it. You don't get a text back for 2 days. The fact is simple, no reply yet. But your mind starts spinning a whole story. They don't care about me. They're ignoring me. I must have done something wrong. Notice how the suffering doesn't come from the silence. It comes from the story you told yourself about that silence. The Stoics taught us that we always have the power to edit that story. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are pained by anything external, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment about it." And judgments can be rewritten. Here's a simple practice. Write down 2 columns. In the first, list the raw facts. In the second, write the story your mind is creating. Then ask, is this story true? Do I have evidence? Could there be another explanation? Often you'll realize the story is nothing more than fear or insecurity dressing up as fact. You are the editor of your mental newspaper. Don't let false headlines go to print. Just because your mind suggests I'm a failure doesn't mean you have to publish that story. You can choose a better headline. I made a mistake and I learned from it. Same event, but a completely different impact on your peace of mind. So remember this, the event is neutral, but the story is optional. And if you can change the story, you can change the way you feel. That's real power. The fifth Stoic pillar is this: detox your environment. Your mind is not separate from the world you live in. It reflects it. Like a mirror, it picks up the noise, the habits, and the people around you. And whether you realize it or not, everything around you is planting seeds in your mind. Some of those seeds grow into clarity and peace. Others grow into chaos and negativity. Think about the people you spend the most time with. Do they lift you up or do they drain you? If your closest circle is built on gossip, complaints, and constant drama, your mind will echo the same energy. The same goes for the content you consume. If your daily feed is filled with outrage, comparison, and shallow noise, don't be surprised when your thoughts feel restless and heavy. Even your physical space matters. A cluttered room, a messy desk, a loud environment, all of these create stress signals in your brain. The Stoics understood this well. That's why they valued simplicity, order, and calm surroundings. Because outer chaos almost always leads to inner chaos. Here's a practice you can try. Spend 1 week detoxing your environment, clean your room, unfollow accounts that constantly trigger insecurity or anger. Limit time with people who pull you into negativity. Instead, choose conversations that inspire you, routines that ground you, and spaces that feel calm. You'll be shocked at how stop feeding it poison. Remember, you can't build peace in your mind while surrounding yourself with noise. You can't plant roses in your garden if you keep watering weeds. Your environment is not just background. It's the soil of your thoughts. Choose it carefully and it will feed your growth instead of your doubts. The sixth Stoic pillar is this. Sometimes you're not broken, you're just exhausted. We live in a world that glorifies hustle, where people wear sleepless nights like a badge of honor. But the truth is, exhaustion can twist your thoughts more than any enemy could. When you're drained, the smallest problem feels overwhelming. A simple text feels like rejection, and your own mind starts attacking you. Think back to a time when you were running on empty. Maybe you snapped at someone you love for no reason. Maybe you sat staring at a screen, unable to focus, convinced something was wrong with you. But here's the reality. Nothing was wrong with you. You were just tired. And when you're tired, your mind is like a stormy sky, filled with thunder and clouds that make everything look darker than it really is. The Stoics understood this. They didn't just preach about mindset. They practiced discipline in protecting their energy. Marcus Aurelius himself reminded that distress doesn't come from events, but from our judgments about them. And when you're exhausted, your judgments are clouded. That's why rest isn't laziness. It's strategy. Here's a simple practice. Tonight, go to bed earlier than usual. Take a walk outside without your phone. Say no to one thing that drains you. Breathe. Give your nervous system a chance to reset. You'll notice that many of the negative thoughts lose their power once your body and mind are rested. Remember this. Being exhausted doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Stop treating fatigue like failure. Treat it like a signal that it's time to pause, recharge, and come back stronger. Because often the storm in your head doesn't need fighting, it just needs rest. The seventh Stoic pillar is this. Gratitude is not just a nice thought, it's a weapon. When your mind is stuck in negativity, it creates tunnel vision. All you see are problems, failures, and things that are missing. But gratitude cracks that tunnel open. It forces you to step back and notice what's still here, what's still working, what's still worth living for. Think about this. On your worst days, you might say, nothing is going right. But is that really true? You're still breathing. You still have food. Maybe you have one friend who checks in on you, or a family member who cares, or even just the strength to wake up and try again. Gratitude doesn't ignore pain. It balances it. It reminds you that darkness never fully wins, because even the smallest light can break it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Most of our negativity comes from believing we don't have enough. Gratitude flips that script. It tells you that, in many ways, you already have more than you realize. Here's a practice. Every night, write down 3 small things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. It could be a good meal, a safe place to sleep, or even a moment of laughter. Over time, your brain learns to notice these details automatically. Instead of feeding on what's missing, it starts feeding on what's present. So the next time negativity starts shouting, answer back with gratitude. Write it down, speak it out loud. Let it become a daily ritual. Because gratitude isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing to see what's real. And when you practice it consistently, you'll find that the storm inside your mind begins to calm. The 8th Stoic pillar is this: remember how short life really is. The Stoics had a phrase, memento mori. Remember, you must die. At first it sounds dark, maybe even uncomfortable, but it's not about fear, it's about clarity. Because when you realize that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. On grudges, on fear, on endless chasing of things that bring no peace. Think about how much time we lose scrolling on our phones, arguing over small things, or replaying regrets from years ago. We live as if we'll have forever, but we don't. Every day is a page that will never come back. The clock is always ticking, and that truth can either scare you or set you free. The Stoics chose freedom. They used mortality as motivation. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who could command armies, still reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think why. Because remembering death teaches you how to live. Here's a practice. In the morning, tell yourself, if today were my last day, how would I spend it? Not in panic, but in focus. Maybe you'd finally call someone you love. Maybe you'd spend less time worrying about what strangers think. Maybe you'd finally start that project you've been postponing. Life is fragile, but that doesn't have to make it depressing. It makes it urgent. It reminds you that every smile, every hug, every sunrise is a gift you only get once. When you carry memento mori in your heart, you stop drifting and start living with intention. So don't run from this truth. Embrace it. Because remembering that life is short is what makes it truly precious. The 9th Stoic pillar is this: put duty above temporary emotions. We live in a culture that often tells us, follow your feelings. And while emotions are real, they are not always reliable. Anger, fear, jealousy, they come fast and loud, but they pass just as quickly. If you let them dictate your actions, you'll end up making choices that don't reflect who you really are. Think about how many times you regretted something you said in anger, or a decision you made in fear. In that moment, it felt so urgent. But looking back, it wasn't your true self speaking. It was your emotion taking the driver's seat. The Stoics remind us that we were not born just to react. We were born to serve, to contribute, to act with purpose. Marcus Aurelius himself, who ruled an empire under constant stress, wrote reminders to stay committed to his duty. He knew that if an emperor could be dragged around by his emotions, the whole empire would fall. And if that was true for him, it's true for us too. When life gets difficult, your duty, whether it's to your family, your work, your principles, becomes the anchor that keeps you steady while your emotions storm and fade. Here's a practice. The next time you feel overwhelmed by emotion, ask yourself, what's my responsibility right now? Not what do I feel like doing, but what is the right thing to do? That one question shifts you from impulse to intention. Feelings are temporary. Duty is lasting. Emotions shout for attention, but duty whispers the truth. And when you choose duty over emotion, you don't just keep yourself steady, you become someone others can count on. 10. The 10th Stoic pillar is this: discipline is freedom. That might sound like a contradiction at first. Most people hear the word discipline and think of restriction, rules, or punishment. But the truth is, nothing enslaves you more than your own unchecked habits and desires. When you're controlled by impulses, whether it's food, anger, laziness, or endless distractions, you're not free. you're a prisoner of your cravings. Think about it. How many times have you promised yourself, "I'll wake up early," but stayed in bed? How many times have you said, "I'll just check my phone for a minute," and lost an hour scrolling? In those moments, who's in charge? You or your impulses? Without discipline, your life gets pulled in every direction except the one you truly want. The Stoics knew this well. That's why they practiced daily discipline, not to make life harder, but to make it lighter. Marcus Aurelius woke up every morning reminding himself of his duties. Epictetus taught that freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want, but from mastering yourself so that you're not ruled by desires. Here's a practice. Start small. Discipline doesn't have to mean climbing mountains on day one. It can mean keeping a promise to yourself. Finish the workout you started. Speak with honesty even when it's uncomfortable. Close the laptop at the time you said you would. Each small act of discipline builds trust with yourself, and that trust is what creates freedom. Because freedom isn't about having no boundaries, it's about creating the right ones. When you train your mind and body, you stop being pulled around by every temptation. You walk straighter, stand taller, and act with intention. That's the kind of freedom no one can take from you. Conclusion. So, silent fighter, here we are at the end. You've walked through 10 Stoic pillars, 10 timeless truths designed not to make you perfect, but to make you stronger. These principles won't turn you into a saint. They won't erase every negative thought or emotion. But what they will do is forge you into a warrior, one who can stand steady even when the storm rages inside. And here's the thing, a true warrior doesn't need to shout to prove his strength. He doesn't need to win every battle in the outside world. His victory is quiet, invisible to others, but undeniable within himself. Because the greatest weapon he carries is not a sword, not an army, but his own disciplined mind. Maybe you've been carrying doubts for years. Maybe you felt like your thoughts are too heavy, too dark, too relentless. But today you've been reminded, you are not your thoughts, you are the observer. You don't have to argue with reality. You can accept it and move forward. You don't have to react to the first emotion. You can pause, reflect, and choose. And you don't have to drown in negativity, because gratitude, duty, and discipline can pull you back to the surface. So let this be your call to action. Don't just listen and forget. Practice, write down your thoughts. Clean your environment. Rest when you're tired. Remind yourself daily that life is short, and because of that, every choice matters. You don't need perfection. You need practice. You don't need to control the whole world. You only need to control yourself, and that is enough.